The Trump administration is proposing a rollback of yet another Obama-era effort to fight climate change, the third one this year. The New York Times reviewed documents showing the proposal would weaken the rules governing the release of methane, a big victory for energy companies. But environmentalists warn devastating for climate change, and here's why. Methane makes up only about 9% of greenhouse gases, but it is around 25 times more effective than carbon dioxide in trapping heat in the atmosphere. The revelations come just as the UN Secretary General is warning that the risk of runaway global warming is very real and that the world must change course by 2020 or face devastating consequences. Joining me now, New York Times energy and environmental policy reporter Coral Davenport. So, Coral, explain to us what specifically the rules that are in place now do and what we can expect if they're successfully rolled back.
So the main rule that's in place is a 2016 rule put in place by the EPA, which requires companies to have a pretty rigorous schedule for monitoring and inspecting leaks of methane from oil and gas drilling wells. That sounds kind of wonky, but oil and gas drilling wells are one of the main sources of leaks of methane into the atmosphere. And as you said, methane is it's sort of like a super greenhouse gas. So even just leaks of it actually are extremely potent in trapping greenhouse gases. So oil and gas companies were very unhappy with this regulation. They said it required, in some cases, 6-month inspections. In some cases, when they found leaks, they were required to fix them within 30 days.
Well, let me Coral read, because you had a great interview there with the president of the Western Energy Alliance, which is a group of independent gas and oil companies. And the Obama-era EPA methane rule, this president said, was the definition of red tape. It was a record-keeping nightmare that was technically impossible to execute in the field. I mean, is it technically impossible? And I don't know if this is a kind of maybe a tough question, but how, as a percentage of profits, was it really that burdensome? Well,
the oil companies said that it could have cost several $100 million overall to the industry in terms of paying people to go out in the fields, the time it takes to do the inspection, keeping track. In terms of a cut from the entire oil industry's bottom line, it's not a lot. It's not an insignificant amount of money. Again, taken as a comparison of overall profits, it's not huge. But the oil and gas companies did say that this was very difficult and arduous to execute. What the Obama administration said and what environmentalists say is, look, basically this is just a matter of keeping track of these leaks. The longer you go, if you don't detect a leak, then that's exactly how the methane is going to get into the atmosphere. And what this proposes to do is loosen that monitoring schedule from every 6 months, in some cases to as long as every 2 years. So opponents of this are saying this means, if you do an inspection, there's a leak the next day, they can happen at any time. You could have, up to 2 years with a leak of this potent planet-warming gas, seeping out into the atmosphere. So this really is seen. On one hand, it's just sort of about monitoring and detection. On the other hand, this really is kind of a main way that this powerful greenhouse gas is kept under control.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.